hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Curious Realm's waning coverage of PsiGames 2025 right here in Charlottesville, Virginia. We have the great joy of being joined by Jonathan Bankert. You actively do some work at the Monroe Institute, things like that, but you came to the world of remote viewing and Monroe and brainwave work, things like that, through a very interesting process. You are one of those who came to this through the world of police work and detective work. You were actively a detective. Was it here in town? Where were you a detective at?
Yes, Orange County Sheriff's Office, which is just right outside of Charlottesville.
Okay. And how long did you serve on the force?
About 15 years altogether
wow.
2 different locations, Pennsylvania, then over 9 years here in Virginia.
Okay. And how long were you a detective?
Last 6 years of my career, I was a detective and forensics specialist as well.
Oh, okay. What kind of cases did you specialize in?
Financial and fraud cases, primarily because of my business background. But otherwise, small department, we had 6 detectives, and we each gave each other the gift of specialization, doing what we wanted to do. And that was me doing financial and fraud. Mm-hmm. And otherwise, we were just general assignment. So we all got a little bit of everything. Okay. So
I mean, I don't know a detective out there, regardless, that hadn't seen some horribly horrible things at some point in their career.
Yes.
And to know, I've known a couple of police officers that have come to the world of remote viewing. Last year, we had a couple folks that actually actively did polygraphs and things like that for the sheriff's department. So that kind of stuff that came and went on the IRVA cruise. And it's always fascinated me, especially since talking with Pam Coronado a couple years ago at the IRVA conference, the idea of cooperation between remote viewing and remote viewing groups and remote viewers and the police department and even federal agencies. It's really remarkable.
Yeah.
How did you first hear about remote viewing? Was it before you were a police officer or after?
Well, during.
Okay.
And completely out of character for me, I was attracted to the Monroe Institute, practicing Christian. I didn't have any belief in any of this, and all of a sudden I saw an advertisement in a local newspaper, Monroe Institute open house.
Interesting.
And I went to the website, signed up. A couple weeks later, went to this open house. And the open house, we did a couple of the Monroe exercises, and they opened the bookstore. So everybody's buying books from Bob Monroe.
Yeah.
I grab a book from Joe McMoneagle, remote viewing, and I read it, but I don't think I digested it too well, but at least I read it, got an idea of what it is.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating. And then several years later, I started having premonitions, seeing things happening before they happened.
Sure.
And that was amazing. That's what got me really into the rabbit hole of what happened. Why did I have this? What was that? Can it be replicated?
Yeah.
And I started studying. I'm a detective. What do I do? I detect. I'm an investigator. What do I do? I investigate. So I investigated what the heck happened. And that got me back to Monroe with what Bob Monroe was doing. And this is all, I'm working my day job, so to speak, and I'm studying this on my own time. And to figure out what happened. Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And of course, never got the answer to that, but took me down an amazing rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Fast forward a few years, my boss, my captain, Brad Darnell, great guy, he and I got assigned by our Commonwealth's attorney at the county.
Okay.
You're going to help the town of Orange with this case. You're not taking it over, just give some fresh insight.
Yeah. An assist.
Yeah. And it was double homicide murder.
Ooh.
Or double homicide missing person. One of the victims was from our county. The other was down in Nelson County, which is where Monroe is, ironically. And when we got back to the office after the meeting with the Commonwealth, The first time my boss ever looked at me and said, ask me what we're going to do. We always go to Brad and ask him what to do. He's the one who always has the answer.
Yeah.
This is the first time he ever looked at me and said, Jaybird, what the hell are we going to do? How are we going to do this? That's when I said, it just came to my mind, and I said, hold on, I'll be right back. I went into my office, shut the door, got online, found the Monroe Institute. I called. They answered, and I said, I'm looking for Joe McMoneagle. I didn't even pronounce his name right.
You did, phonetically.
Yeah, and they said, silly detective, he doesn't work here, he just teaches here. And I said, all right. They said, give me your contact information. If we see him, we'll see what he,
Sure.
Yeah, and 20 minutes later, I get a call from Joe.
Wow.
And I didn't expect it. And I got the call. We talked. He said, email me some stuff, just he told me what to send him. And it was just cursory information, just a few, not even identifiers, just a couple. Well, now I know, some gestalts, just, some prime information that you can't really tie to what we're calling about. And he sent me a report, and then he followed up with like a map of what he thinks he saw. And we ended up going down to the Monroe Institute, meeting with Joe, meeting with Scooter, his wife, Nancy McMoneagle, and who was really part of the whole case. She's the one who facilitated all the get-togethers we had. So she gets half the credit here, if not 3/4. Yeah. And we'd go down there, talk to Joe. We would put him in a squad car, or put him in our unmarked. We would drive around to these different crime scenes. And he would just get out of the car and tell us what was here, what was there. And the guy I'm working with, the guy who was the prime investigator, the lead investigator on this, he stopped giving me information because he didn't want me to front load Joe with anything.
Sure.
So we get out of the car at this one location. Joe walks around the car, and he's looking at the scene, and he says, there was a camper right here. And that little impression in the ground over there, that's where her dead body was. And Joe says, I'm going to walk down to the lake. And he turns around and walks away.
Wow.
Evans Okerson, the detective who was lead on this, he looks at me and says, how did he know that? And I said to Evans, how the hell did he know what?
Yeah.
He says there was a camper right here. And he says the body, he says the cadaver dogs hit on that little spot where he indicated the body was.
Interesting.
So he was picking up on things like that. He was picking up, we were driving through a trailer park, and those two were talking guy stuff. They were talking about Dodge pickup trucks that they both owned in their lives. And as they were talking car talk, out of the blue, they're talking car talk, and Joe just, and that's his single wide right there. And then right back to talking about pickup trucks. And I said, hey, what? And Evan says, yeah, that's where he was living. Just out of the blue.
Wild.
And after we got through this case, he's the suspect's in jail for 3 life sentences.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Congratulations.
And it wasn't so, it was, we had some help with the FBI, and we were working in conjunction with, but a lot of Joe's guidance led us in those directions. But after this was all, after I got through a lot of this, as a thank you, I wrote a letter to Scooter and sent her my application for Gateway and said, as a thank you to you and to Joe, I want to come do Gateway.
Yeah.
And that's the foundation course at the Institute, at the Monroe Institute.
Yeah.
I did that, ended up 4 months later doing MC squared, which is psychokinesis. And then Scooter says, why don't you come down and be a greeter? So, and I said, I'd love to volunteer. And she says, oh, hell, we'll pay you, too. And I'm like, even better. And I've been down there for about 12 years, just welcoming people, carrying their suitcases, showing them around the Institute, integrating them into their week-long program.
Yeah.
And that, to me, it's very enjoyable.
I would imagine so, man. Especially the journey that you got to get there.
Yeah.
Because now let me ask you this. A few questions popped up in my mind. Number one, before that moment where you were asked to help with things, before that moment that you found the Monroe Institute and anything, had any of these things, any premonitions, anything like that ever happened to you before?
Well, like I said, that's what started the research.
Sure,
I was having some of these
Yeah,
premonitions and everything that were...
Well, but was it like 15 you had these things and
No.
just ignored them?
No.
Things like that? No.
No, it just happened suddenly.
Any trauma beforehand? Like,
No.
I suffered a bullet wound. He'd spent a week in the hospital.
No.
Nothing like that.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, it
Interesting.
was spontaneous.
Wild.
The first one I had driving home from the grocery store.
Yeah.
And I've got this bag of groceries on the seat, and I'm literally driving down Route 33 Route 22 at that. Yeah, regardless. But I'm driving along taking mental note of my refrigerator inventory. And I'm thinking, I've got leftover pork chops. I've got this rice blend. I know what I'm making for dinner tonight. And all of a sudden, just like a video, like a heads-up display in an airplane, like a fighter jet.
Yeah.
It's like there was a movie being played in front of my eyes of a guy walking around the front of his car, a burgundy Volvo. He's wearing a cardigan sweater, corduroys, gravel driveway, and he's walking around the front of his car and reaching for his mailbox. I know the guy. John Haney, author of the book Secrets of the White House Kitchen. He was a White House chef.
Yep.
I'm thinking about food. I don't know if it's related, but all of a sudden I'm thinking about John Haney walking. I know him, but I don't know where he lives.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I have this view of him walking around to his mailbox. And it was so vivid, I had to shake my head and like blink my eyes, and I thought, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
That was the first one. And that was weird. And then I just continued driving, thinking about what I'm making for dinner. Go around the bend. Right there is John Haney, in a cardigan sweater, corduroys, walking around the front of his burgundy Volvo, walking over in a gravel driveway, reaching for his mailbox. And I thought, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, I started having these regularly.
Yeah.
To the point where I gave it a name. I called them stray bullets.
Sure.
Sure. I'd go home and
something that just comes out of nowhere and whacks you.
Yeah. My then wife, I went home. I told her what happened. She wouldn't think any different of me. She already knew I was half crazy, but and she's on this wavelength now, so it's all good. But I told her about it, and then the next day I had something, and then a couple days later and it just kept coming, and then it slowed down. And that's the thing. I mean, when I got to Monroe and learned Gateway. This is how everybody can really stimulate this.
Yeah.
Gateway is a good conduit to really teach everybody how to really use your mind. Yeah, let go, and receive.
Yeah.
And these things start to happen.
Yeah. Absolutely, because we are constantly transmitting, receiving. The only question is whether or not we are consciously processing that data.
True. Yeah.
That's literally why we dream, so that we can process the things that we just autonomically went through during the day.
Yeah.
That may have, rung up a trauma from earlier in life that you were just like, oh my God, what's that about Uncle Dave? Go away. I got to get back to typing. Yeah. So things like that. And it's interesting that you, especially as a police officer, we're having these because one of the things we talk about regularly on the show is the reticence of police officers to report such things. Whether it's a UFO UAP sighting that somebody had a report on, or a paranormal thing that they saw at a murder site, something like that, because it can literally affect cases that you have put up.
And credibility.
A defense lawyer would shred you.
Yeah.
They would shred. So I understand you do remote viewing. That's really interesting. So you believe in a lot of make-believe stuff, huh?
Exactly.
And not that it's make-believe. Believe me, folks, I'm a remote viewer. But that is where they would go with it.
Exactly.
You know, and especially you growing up as a Christian, having a very Christian predilection to your faith, to your life, things like that. One of the things I come up against, the first ad I put up for PsiGames, I leave most of my commenting open on stuff. I love to see what people say, love to respond. It was probably about a month after I had that ad up, a couple weeks. The only thing I saw on an alert was Randy Jordan left a message. Like, he made a comment. And it was like, oh, let me see how my brother commented on my post. And it was like, the comments on this post are gold. And I was like, oh, my God, what are people saying about my post? And, buddy, it was, you are a demon worshiper.
Yes, indeed.
You are a Satanist. This is from the devil. One dude, as a former Catholic seminarian, it cracked me up because the guy started straight, like, here's a page and a half from Revelations. And I was like, you mean the guy who may have remote viewed the end of the world? Interesting. Let's talk more. But the idea of that, the idea of you embrace this, not just you embrace this, but now, was that your just direct head, or was that the chief of D's that was like, let's give this some credence and look into this?
Well, my boss, Brad, Captain Darnell, he was, when I told him what I'm doing, getting Joe,
Sure.
of course he was like, what does he do? And I said, well, he was a remote viewer. He was with the CIA, this thing called Project Stargate, and so on and so forth. And he kind of unofficially blessed it because his brother-in-law, Stephen, is clairvoyant.
Oh, wow.
So
Interesting.
His wife grew up with a clairvoyant, her brother. Yeah. So to the point where the story that...
So he had seen things before, so he was no stranger to the topic.
So when they were decorating for Christmas one year, they couldn't find their elf on a shelf. So Brad said, or maybe Brad said to Jamie, maybe Jamie said to Brad, we need to call Stephen. Stephen's in Las Vegas. That's where he lives. They call him and said, we have a crisis. We can't find the elf on a shelf. So here's Stephen with this God-given gift and, world peace.
Yeah.
Cure cancer, something.
Or an elf on the shelf.
And they're calling about an elf on the shelf.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Of course he knew right where it was.
Interesting.
So with background, and that's not the only story. That's one of many.
Sure.
And then with me bringing Joe into this, he was perfectly fine. But we did keep it down low and called, if anybody asked, we said he was a retired CIA agent. He's a consultant.
Okay.
And word did get out. And one day I'm coming into the office and Brad, Jaybird, come on. What? Sheriff's office. Oh, shit. Anytime you're told to go into the sheriff's office, that means usually means something bad.
Yeah.
We go in, chief deputy is sitting there with a legal pad, and I'm thinking, this ain't good. Brad comes in with me, they shut the door, and I sit down, and Sheriff Mark Amos, probably one of the best employers I've ever had. Just such a strong leader and just a great guy. But anyhow, Mark says, tell me about this guy that you have on the case. Oh, Joe. He's a consultant. Well, what does he do? Well, he's a remote viewer with the CIA. He's a GD psychic. I said, no, sir. He's a remote viewer. He did this for the CIA. And he just yelled, he's a GD psychic. And I said, again, no, he's a remote viewer. He was with the CIA, just giving this candy-coated version of what Joe did. Yeah. And finally, he kept retorting, he's a GD psychic. And finally, Brad just jumped in, and he just very quietly said, Mark, what do we do if he gives us a lead that sounds good?
Good data. What do you do if he gives you a solid lead, man?
And then the sheriff...
Say no?
Yeah, the sheriff just leaned forward and said, well, if it sounds good, follow up on it. We're like, okay.
That's what we're doing.
And then
the
meeting was adjourned at that moment, and we left. And then at the end of the year, at the Christmas party, I didn't make it. I had something going. I think I was on call, and I was out on a case. I was on, out doing, working. And Brad was at the meeting, or at the Christmas party. The gift that the sheriff gave to Brad was a magic 8-ball and a big sequined genie beanie. So just
at least he's a sport about it.
Yeah,
at least he's a sport about it.
It was, dealt with then with laughter, and it was fun. We had fun with it.
And one final question, because of course whenever any murder happens, it's one of those immediately around them are immediately suspect. As well as, sadly, anybody that comes in, and even if it's a false report, you're going to be looking into it. Did Joe become a suspect at any time with any of the data? Because, of course, you came to him, but still.
Not on this case.
Yeah, because
not on this case.
Other cases?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, because at some point, it's incumbent upon you as an investigator to ask, wait a minute.
How did you know
this
that?
dude's getting a lot of data that we ain't released. Yeah. How's that happening? Yeah. Because so you at least got to eliminate that
Joe
quandary.
being down here in his county, in Nelson County, word got to him that there was a child missing. And I think from the local resort or something, he had wandered off and whatever. I'm not sure what the details
were. And
were.
a good viewer, he just went after it.
Yeah.
He just went after it like a dog.
He saw that the kid was at a hunting cabin at the base of the mountain near, he gave some specific details. And either he called or somebody else called on his behalf and said, hey, we know where this kid is. And sure enough, that's where the kid was found. Next thing you know, there's a knock at his door.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, we got to. Now we got to talk.
And he was taken in for questioning. How did you know this?
Yep.
And this, probably the same thing. Well, I'm a consultant.
Yeah.
I was with the CIA. And probably, and you're a GD psych.
That's part of my favorite. One of my favorite parts of Pam Coronado's story is that she had a premonition dream. She had a dream about a murder suspect that happened. Mm-hmm. And she called the police to give them information. And, they did what police do, until they cleared her and were like, okay, well, how did you come by this?
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to think about that.
Well, we had several psychics come to us. Just none of these people knew each other.
Yeah.
But they would just call.
Yeah.
They would just stop in and, I'm just having a feeling about this area. And next thing you know, we're out where we had searched for something relating to that case.
Yeah, where you'd done a line search or something like that.
And
everybody combing the area.
Yeah, and the neat thing about that was, I think it was 3 different individual psychics that came to us, and they all had something very similar to say.
Yeah.
That showed that they were, I truly believe they were on a specific the same wavelength, so to speak, to put it in layman's terms. I think they were all listening to the same source of information about what was going on, and they just came forward and said, we're feeling this.
Yeah, tied into the same frequency on it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They were 3 separate radios tuned to the same channel.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because, once again, things like this happen to you. Things change. Your perspective changes.
Yeah.
And even the fact of you going to work with Monroe and pursuing this personally afterward. How has that worked out for you? How are you in your remote viewing journey? How are you with all this? Are you out practicing right now?
Not necessarily practicing, but the thing about it is, here at this event that we're at.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Absolutely. And I know probably about 25, 30 people just from being in that space, just from being the greeter. There's about 25, 30 people whose suitcases I've carried across the threshold over there at Monroe. And, I'm here with some folks that I met there, and it's just the people I've met are what really makes the difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But, someday I'm going to, I've done 4 programs and I'm looking to continue and perhaps go on. I'm already accepted into the instructors program. So move forward with that when I get the time. So,
yeah.
But the thing is, with people who want to really learn how to get in touch with that, with their psychic side, with their own spiritual side, Gateway is amazing. Because a lot of people go with the preconceived notion that I want an expectation. I'm going to go there to learn how to have an out-of-body experience. Don't go with an expectation. And you go and you have an experience. And these experiences that people have are completely different than anybody else in the room, and it's for you. I had these experiences there that, I think of myself as moderately creative, but the things that happened to me, I'm thinking, there's no way I would have come up with that.
Yeah.
No way I imagined this. The things that happened were so real that it just, to me, it proves that we are more than our physical body.
Absolutely. Same here.
We certainly are. And as a practicing Christian, it just, to me, says, this is my soul.
It's only more wonder and awe.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it just compounds the fact that, I believe what I believe, and this really makes it a little more believable.
Yeah. Yeah, precisely. Precisely. And, it's one of those, we all have a different journey of how we get here. We all have a different journey of how we apply this stuff, and how we apply these teachings and principles that we've learned along the way during a remote viewing journey. So thank you so much for candidly sharing your story and your experience.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let everybody know where because, I love Monroe Institute.
Of course.
Let everybody know where they can find out more, where they can go to sign up for the Gateway program.
All right.
Where can they go to find out more about Monroe Institute?
Website.
Okay.
Yeah. And
what is the website?
Monroe.com, I think. MonroeInstitute.com. Something like that.
Okay.
But with the popularity of like Joe McMoneagle on a lot of these podcasts and different shows, that's really booked the Institute solid for Gateway. They've added Gateway programs, and they have the home version.
Yeah.
The online version.
Yep.
And some people say, I don't want to do it that way, and I want to be there. And there is a good feel when you're at the Institute itself. Yeah. But one of the benefits of doing it online at home at your own pace, when you do these exercises, like at the Institute, what happens, like when you fall asleep, their terminology is, you clicked out. You dozed off during the exercise.
Yeah.
You missed it. You can't go back and do it again because the show must go on. The program keeps marching forward. But the home version, you click out. Damn, I fell asleep.
Give it another shot.
Tonight, I think I'm going to try it again.
Yeah.
And then you can pretty much guarantee that you get the full experience.
That's great. That's great.
That way. So
Incredible.
That's a good way to look at it. And a lot of people I've talked to that did the home version, the online version. That's exactly what they did. They didn't miss anything, and they got a very good, deep experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, once again, thank you so much for your time and your candid candor about all of your experiences with this.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
While you are online checking out everything from the Monroe Institute, everybody, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can like, follow, subscribe. That is where you can find the embedded YouTube channels of all of our guests. That's also where you can find our events page, CuriousRealm.com/events, that has all of the coverage from all of the amazing events that we both sponsor, attend, and cover throughout the year. So stay tuned through this quick commercial break. We will be right back with the final parts of our coverage from PsiGames 2025 right here in Charlottesville, Virginia, right after this.
The key to good science is good research. At the heart of good research is a good data set. With the field observation and encounter log from Curious Research, you can easily keep track of your investigative information all in one place, making it easier to review cases and readily see comparisons and contrasts between them. Whether out in the woods squatching, in a back room gathering EVPs, or using high-tech gear to track UFO, UAP activity, this easy-to-carry, pocket-sized scientific data log is the perfect companion for any field researcher. You can find your copy of the Curious Research Field Observation and Encounter Log at Amazon.com or visit the official Curious Realm store at curiousrealm.com/store to reserve your copy for yourself, your family, or a mind that you want to open. That website again is curiousrealm.com/store.